Welcome to Cosmic Conscious Vibration, unlocking your inner universe with me, Reverend Dr. Kimmie and Dr. Pat. Are you on a personal journey of spiritual self-discovery? We provide practical ways to connect with your higher self to live a more meaningful life while deepening your connection to source consciousness. Learn the benefits of living a more mindful existence to reclaim your personal power. Join us as we explore insights to a deeper understanding of the nature of consciousness. Learn to listen better to your intuition and your heart's desires, putting you on a path of manifesting the life you are meant to live. The Cosmic Conscious Vibration Show is your catalyst for a consciousness revolution based on universal love and oneness. It all starts now. Hello, and welcome back to Cosmic Conscious Vibration. And of course, with me as always is Dr. Pat. We today are gonna dive into a topic that both me and her are just love it. It's sacred geometry. Now,
Love
if you
it.
haven't, yes, okay. It's gonna be packed with, you may not even know that you are part of this whole thing, your DNA, all of that. So we're gonna kind of go into what it is and how to use it in your daily life. So let's get started.
Well, before we start, just for this show.
Oh, putting on the red power. Yes.
Oh, because let's talk about this for a minute. It was fascinating. I don't know if you saw the applique that you used to put on that lip gloss. It's made in a sacred geometry form.
Oh, girl, now you know I haven't even thought about that.
Okay, now wait, because I'm telling you, like, okay, let me get it out.
Oh,
Okay,
I gotta see this.
okay, well,
Or
it also looks like
gloss.
something else, but I ain't gonna talk about that. But if you take a look at it, you see they make it almost triangular in shape.
That is
And I thought to myself today, okay, what in the world is not in sacred geometry form?
I mean, I didn't even think about lip gloss, and so I got hipped right there. Um, Now, and I love me a good lip gloss. I'm gonna start looking. But you know, you're right. Almost everything is in sacred. Their sacred geometry affects everything. Flowers, your DNA, vibrations themselves make patterns that are
Hmm.
sacred geometry. Like I know everyone's probably seen that vibration like sand experiment
Hmm.
where they put the sand or the sugar on like a drum and they start doing the thing and it
Woo!
starts making those pretty patterns. That is sacred geometry.
I can get me my bear drum over here if you want for later.
Oh, you got a
Um,
little bear drum.
I
Cool.
got a bear drum. I made it. Stefan, I don't know if you can grab this. Grab the Transformation Network logo. If you can't, I'll try to get it for you. And the reason I am saying that is, and we only just ahead of it, when you look at it, people always ask me, what is that made of? Why did you make that like that? Tell me what's going on with the head inside the head. It's an interesting conversation, but it's not easy to explain.
Mm.
But sacred geometry, let's ask the question, what is it? Give us your breakdown of what sacred geometry is for you. I mean, we talk about sacred geometry, but the bottom line for me, almost every part of anything that has any kind of structure to it has a geometrical aspect to it.
Mhm.
And so, why do we call certain things sacred geometry? So, give us your rundown about what that is and
Well,
from what you've learned.
there's different types of sacred geometry, but for me personally, I think vibration and music, which are basically and I may mispronounce this, Fibonacci sequence, that is part of sacred geometry. So when I sing or when I'm looking at notes or how things play together, that is sacred geometry. Your face is sacred geometry. So, the things that make us is sacred geometry, as well as the things that give our lives beauty, flowers, plants, um, but my favorite one, I think, and this is one of the, I think, most common when people think of sacred geometry is the flower of life.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And even snowflakes, have that flower of life type-esque energy and pattern. So really it's around you all the time. You are part of it just as it's floating around you.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk about the flower of life. I wish I could share my screen because, the flower of what life is it's a harmonious image that if you see how people overlay it, they overlay it to, let me get this right, a dandelion, right? Those white
Yeah,
puffy,
yeah.
right. There
Hmm.
we go.
Yeah,
Uh, I'm not a botanist, so hello,
yeah.
just but when they overlay it, you could see how the formation of it was developed, just perfectly done, and the circle, by the way, can we talk about the flower of life for a minute?
Hmm.
I love that this is your favorite, right? I just love that, you pointed that out. And I want to talk about it. And at the same time, Stefan is going to drop in a picture of our logo for people to look at. Now, the logo represents a restructured version of the flower of life. And if you look at our logo, it's almost like we have them divided in half between the two heads.
Ah,
However, when you take the top and you flip the bottom, what you have is the geometric shape we're talking about. But
right.
the center represents source and creator.
Mhm, mhm. And that's part of I never saw that in your logo, and now I'm looking at it in a new, complete different way, and that is beautiful, to integrate that in such a creative way. The reason why I think the flower of life is my one, how like when we're little, we doodle a lot. I was always an avid doodler. My mind would just be wandering, and 9 times out of 10, I didn't even think about it, but I was always doodling little circles like this, and I didn't realize it then. But I was drawing the flower of life over and over again.
Oh my gosh.
And, as I look at it now, I mean, like that's something I don't do as much, but I think I like it. It's my favorite because of what it represents and that it is really the foundation of even all the other patterns fit into it. So it's basically the whole that things fit into. And that's why I think I like it as one of the my favorite sacred symbols, besides of course things like the Mekaba and all that stuff. But this one is just it's
Yeah.
the symmetry and the beauty of it and everything.
Yeah. And let's talk about a couple of the others because I think they're interesting and people may not know, they may not have a sense of, wow, that's really a say. So let's talk about the tree of life in combination. Now, the tree of life, there are many pictures of the tree of life
Mhm.
and many versions of the tree of life. But if you look at the tree of life, what it mimics is what people are calling the human design analysis, what you do of that. But the tree of life, again, I have seen so many beautiful representations. As a matter of fact, hello, thank you. Just answered my question. You don't even know what the question was, do you? So we're redesigning our websites, and I have a meeting today with our designers. And the background of the new transformation website, the Transformation Network website, we're deciding on a background that everything's going to go over. And I just thought to myself, the tree of life and the abstract versions of it would make a beautiful background for that, right? Because what is the Transformation Network about? It's about how to discover how to grow. That's the tree, but it's also grounded in root science, in root spirituality, in the root of everything. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Uh, may even have a little celery root in there, Dr. Kimmie. Little ginger, little celery. But there are other sacred geometries, and let's talk about them. From other cultures, you have the Sri Yantra.
Mhm.
That is a series. Okay, please don't email me because I'm not an expert on this,
All
but I'm
right.
just going to say when I look at it, it's a series of triangles overlaid upon each other in different ways. So that brings me to a question for you. How in the world did the triangle become one of the most popular sacred geometric figures on the planet?
You know, now we can go to the pyramids and even look at
Let's
that.
go.
But
Let's
like,
get our airplane tickets right now.
basically, when you think about it, okay, so like, for example, bringing back the tree of life, there's different representations. You may look at a beautiful tree that they, accentuate the roots, but there's also the ones where you see the chakra system and you see all the connectors. What are those connectors? Point, 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 point. Most of them are triangles, right? So you've got the connection there. Then you've got the pyramids of Egypt, Stonehenge, just temples across the world using that. And it to me, it represents twofold. For one, it is fits into the tree of life. It fits into the you may think the flower doesn't have triangles, but if you look at it, you'll see those triangles in there too with those connectors, right? But at the same time, another way the triangle kind of think of ourselves as the Trinity, right? You feel that connection to the divine at the top, and you've got that base. So there's also that. There's so many ways. And of course, these symbols are not just cool looking, they're basically energy portals. When we meditate on them, we are using them to build structures, be it a structure of more stability in our life or a structure of more love and compassion in our life. We're using them every time we meditate, even if we don't realize it.
Yeah. I mean, one of my favorites, let's talk about one of my favorites for a minute. And most people, you know it if you saw it. You would know it if you saw it. I don't know if Stefan can get an image of this, but it is, by all names from people that want to know, it's called Metatron's Cube.
I have a necklace of that.
It's what I'm talking about, right? And it is a symbol of sacred geometry, and it containing every shape in the universe. What? It includes also the 13 circles from the flower of life. Now, that's what they say it is. It's named after Archangel Metatron. Metatron doesn't get the love. It's kind of like if you coming back in this world as Aries, the god of war, you're not going to get a lot of love. But Metatron doesn't get that love. But what Metatron, Archangel Metatron, had represented is the journey of energy throughout the universe, the balance of energy within. And I'm telling you, right? You wear that, you wear. And so
I need to get a new chain for mine, but that's one of my first ones that I
bought. And Stefan just put up the image. But part of this is we're so intuitively drawn, aren't we? Why do you think that is?
Well, we're intuitively drawn to things that our soul is trying to remember. Our soul is here to remember. It's not here to learn. It's here to remember. So when we interact with these symbols, we're tapping into something that's quite deep and quite profound that our soul understands. And these symbols, basically symbols are everywhere. Symbolic gestures basically rule the galaxy, right? So when we're meditating with these symbols, be it Metrion's cube, which I love because if you ever, and you said he showed a picture, but I love how it's like this like triangle, I mean, this like hexagonish thing, but then there's little wheels on all the points where you can see like turning energy in a way, like how I feel about it, but those are all portals. So we're trying to remember this. Our soul, we're drawn to it because it's part of us.
I love this idea. And, part of this, when we look at this, is understanding the energy, but also understanding the properties of us that help us step into the next level of conversation. And that is to really understand the blueprint of creation. Right. And,
right.
This is something that's really important to you. It's something that we're talking about today, setting the foundation, understanding the blueprint of creation. And I think for many of us who, I mean, honestly, growing up in the Bronx, nobody ever talked to me about any of this stuff, right? But you get drawn to certain things. Metatron's cube was something immediately for me, not knowing that's what it was. I didn't know that.
It
But
just looked cool.
it's cool, right? But the other, You know, the other thing you mentioned earlier in the show was, I think I believe you mentioned Fibonacci sequence,
Right.
right? And that we get in like an acorn. But let's talk about the most common, underrated, a lot of time overlooked, the spiral.
Oh, yes. Spiral is overlooked, and you're right about that. And you would think it wouldn't be, because if you ever watch even a movie that's got a little bit of a Buddhist uh sense, you'll see people walking in meditative spirals. There's a reason for that. It's you're creating the sacred shape as you're connecting higher and higher up. So it's one of those fascinating ones. And I think, and this is kind of, no shade to the flower of life, but that's one of my favorite ones. I think the intricacy kind of over, people go to that one more than they go to the spiral, but the spiral is within that, like everything else we're talking about. But
Yeah.
it's one of those things you really can meditate. Like, you'll see Buddhist monks and stuff, they'll walk in a spiral. When you think of our mazes, that are spiral mazes, those are not just mazes, those are representations of the intricacy of the ever endingness to me.
You know, one of the things I love about this is one of these structures that have shown up in our architectures. I recently, again, looking for background designs, I was recently struck, and I kind of got off track because I started to look up images of spirals, and I wasn't aware of how many architectural images have spirals. Like, they go out of their way to make a phenomenal spiral staircase out of granite or
Yeah.
quartz.
Yeah.
And, you know, when we see that, and let's go back thousands and thousands of years, how many hieroglyphs have you seen with spiral images in it, right?
Hieroglyphs, shamanistic symbols. This is funny, and this is just
Uh-oh,
weird.
you got something for me?
Well, it's weird, but well, it's me. But I I draw on my rocks to for grounding stones, and this is my favorite one. And I didn't even really know my shamanistic stuff at the time, but look, see, I'm drawing spirals,
Oh, yeah.
dots and things, and I didn't get it. But when you said that, I'm like, oh yeah, that's part of it too. And it's a matter of, we draw spirals. Sometimes it's one of those things that is just, it's funny how you draw doodles. Like when I mentioned doodles earlier, how I would draw
Oh,
for life, but a lot of people also draw the spirals. And it's, again, it's a doodle, or is it a manifestation of something that's trying to register,
yeah.
Spirals
I,
are
I
very
just turned my
underrated.
head because I have a sketch that I did many years ago when I first came to Seattle. And when you mentioned doodle, I was really struck by the innate nature, what we have inside of us that is so old. You know, for people have heard me say, maybe not this lifetime. So I get a lot of emails about that. And I'm like, God, we thought you believed in God. Now you're talking about reincarnation. And so I'm like, hello, okay, so why can't we have it all? But the question mark really is, how do we use these? Reverend Dr. Kimmie, how do we use them? Because they're here purposefully.
Yes.
Even the obelisk, you know,
Oh,
these interesting, right?
mm.
We got one in Washington, D.C. They're all over Egypt. They're all around the pyramids.
Oh,
But
well, now
how do we
Washington was
use
built
these?
by the Masons, so that's all sacred
Boom.
geometry. That's everywhere. And my grandfather was a Mason, so it's like, yep, yep. But yes, they're easy to use. You can do intricate things and use them. For example, you can print out a flower of life and use it to meditate on, or print one out and sit there and color it and meditate on it. You don't have to be so, this is what we do, right? Because
Yeah.
they're everywhere. You just by admiring like a vase of flowers is admiring sacred geometry. Sitting down and lighting your incense for whatever meditation, those little whiffs, that's all sacred too. So really, it's a matter of just noticing that they're around you. And focusing on the structure and the vibration when you do meditate on them or when you see it. Take a meditative walk purposely and just look at the flowers. You don't have to be, stuffy about it. Just take it all in. We're running into spring, right? It's
Yeah.
beautiful time to start looking at flowers and just enjoying the beauty that is, because the beauty that is sacred geometry all around. And
You know,
also noticing yourself as sacred geometry true.
yeah. What I really love is when we can take the sacred geometry and we can make it three-dimensional, like the Merkaba. When we'll look at that, like a three-dimensional triangle, but many triangles put in. Okay, I'm really not describing this, but the Merkaba is like this like almost like a round thing that has individual three-dimensional triangles throughout it.
Mhm.
And when you are present in some of these the structures, don't you feel like there are energies that emanate from them?
That one especially, that is basically a light activation tool. It helps in ascension and multidimensional travel. It helps in so many different ways. Um, you can activate things within your own being by just meditating on that one. That one is very, very powerful. Also underrated, but very
It
powerful.
is, and I misrepresented it. It really is a tetrahedron. It's
Yeah,
really something. Pyramid is what I said because on the surface that's what it looks like. But a
yeah.
pyramid doesn't have like four sides. But the point is, look at how we're using the numerology. And not only that, mathematics is so full of symbols. We think about pi, and we think about the creation of that and what that means. Let me ask you this question. I know only have a few minutes left. We're talking about this because there is a purpose to understanding how to bring that energy in to help us move through things that are bothering us, move through trauma, call on these energies. Why are we saying that? Well, haven't they been used for tens of thousands of years?
Right. And if you even want to do real quick deeper, symbols are not just within us and around us to meditate. They're actually symbols in the things that we're using right now. What is
Mhm.
code? Code is symbols. Symbols are everywhere, right? So
Yeah.
even using AI can be symbols and code. All of these things are symbols and code. So many things that we use today are symbols and code. So just by meditating on it, and it'll help you burn through those stuck parts of your system.
Mm. Now, I want to ask you a question. I'm looking forward to get an update from you, Reverend Dr. Kimmie, about you're doing many things. You're putting programs together. You have another show. Why don't you take a moment and give us an update on what you're incorporating in your coaching practice and more so that we understand how you're bringing it all together to help us through pretty much anything?
Yeah, I've been doing some layering. I have another show that is the Spiritual Tea with Reverend Dr. Kimmie, and that's the I always mess up. I believe the fourth Wednesday of the month. And when it comes to my website, you just go to REVDRKIMMIE.com. If you look into my store portion, there are personalized soul upgrades that I use with light language now. And also, of course, little chi balls for energy healing. But those things can put you in a place where you're starting to burn through those set of, those stuck layers. So those things can help even if you don't want coaching, but I'm for that too.
Many things you're doing and things that are going on. But today's show, especially about sacred geometry, is an invitation to people when you're walking around, when you're going to the store, pay attention. One of the things that I love to do in a level one class is get people out and look for the symbols in their grocery stores. And so somebody came back, and I can't mention the name because I don't have permission to, but they came back with a soft drink, right? A drink that you drink out of the can, been around for a million years. And their redesign of the logo was a yin yang. And I have seen this logo a million times on my little can of whatever I'm drinking. And I just didn't see it. I just didn't see the yin yang in that symbol because The product's name is right across it, and that's all I cared about.
Right.
But you see, it's all around us, isn't it?
It really is. And like you just said, the grocery store of all places, right? The grocery store. People use these things subconsciously in design work all the time, just like your logo. I never saw it that way. And then I'm like, wow. So yeah.
Well, how do people find out about you? How do they listen to your double show that you're doing? And how did they work with you directly, Reverend Dr. Kimmie?
Well, you can easily go to reverendrkimmie.com, which is REVDRKIMMIE.com. That's got tons of things to purchase from me energetically. There's all the, make an appointment with me. And as far as even catching up on podcasts, you can, listen to it from my website, or of course the Transformation Talk Radio website. So I'm everywhere. Apple Podcasts, all the things. Even Amazon. I didn't know about that one until the other day.
Well, last question. What's your tip of the day you want to leave us with here?
Just pay attention. I think it's very simple. I don't want to be cliche, but pay attention, because when you're on this journey, paying attention to yourself is key, but also making sure you pay attention to things around you and be in the present moment. And that's when you're going to see those beautiful flowers that strike you in the right area because you see the sacred geometry. Or maybe you start drawing spirals after this. You never know. Just pay attention to everything.
And what a fun exercise. Thank you for bringing that up. I mean, what we're talking about is take out a piece of paper, take out a pencil, stop thinking, and see where your hand goes. You will be amazed. I believe there is a message in almost everything. Yeah. Thank you, especially including my mac and cheese recipe. Thank you, Reverend Dr. Kimmie. Have a great mac and cheese recipe.
Oh, okay.
Thank you so much for today. And just a comment on that. One of the countries that my family is from, I have two splits. One is Italy and one is Brazil. Brazil is filled with various sacred geometries. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to food, there is a food source in the Italian culture that is all sacred geometry.
Pastas.
Absolutely.
Yeah, boom. Yeah, pastas. I was just like, wait, pasta. Now I want a plate of pasta.
I mean, I got it going on too. Reverend Dr. Kimmie, I'm Dr. Pat. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back.
Thank you for listening to Cosmic Conscious Vibration, Unlocking Your Inner Universe. I'm Dr. Kimmie, and along with Dr. Pat, we have been discussing the nature of consciousness for ways to deepen your connection to Source. Join us on the second Tuesday of each month at 11 a.m. Pacific Time on Transformation Talk Radio, as we provide the information to assist you on your personal spiritual journey. You play an important role in the interconnectedness of all things. For more information on the benefits of living a more mindful existence, please visit www.REVDRKIMMIE.com. That's ReverendDrKimmie.com.